A dream is something that should inspire us and empower us. A dream is something that we should aspire to live by. There is no greater motivation than the hope that is presented by our dreams. Ladies and gentlemen, former President of India, great man, a scientist, once came and said, dreams are not something that you see at night. They're something that keep you awake at night. For many of us, the dream is about basic human existence. How can we make our lives better through our hard work and sincerity and enterprise? How can we improve the lives of our families? How can we build a better future for ourselves and our children? Now have a look at the visuals that are going to come up on your screens. Because this is the dream of Vilayat, of going abroad. Let's have an honest conversation. How many families in this country are hopeful that their children get settled abroad? How many families in this country are dependent upon monies that are returned from abroad? India is the number one destination of foreign remittances in the world. But here's a reality check on your screens. Canada, where visa changes are taking place, okay? And you're seeing protests of the Punjabi community, which is a large strength of our immigration population, to Canada, protesting. And there's a video on the right side of your screens. This has been shared on social media by a young Indian student in Toronto called Nishat. And what you're seeing on the extreme right of your screens, this is a line that is formed to queue for a job application for a part-time job for an international student at a store. It's a chain. It's called Tim Hortons. And this boy showed up for this job fair half an hour before it was scheduled to begin, only to see that more than 100 people were already in the queue in front of him. The dream of Vilayat. That's the reality of the dream. Let's open up this conversation. Joining us on the broadcast, Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee is with us, Sharad Kohli is with us, Sumit Peer with us on the broadcast, and Rabinder Sachdev joining us as well. Now, Ambassador Mukherjee, now I've studied abroad and it is woefully expensive. Foreign students spend between 4 to 6 times what local students are expected in Canada, in the UK, in the US. 4 to 6 times. If you are a brilliant person, okay, and you get tempted that, listen, abroad is the future of education, and you get a admission to Harvard, it's going to cost you north of 1.5 crore rupees to go and study there. In the UK, the average cost of a single year's master's degree is north of 50 lakh rupees. It's going to cost you about 20,000 odd pounds in tuition and another 20 to 30,000 pounds to live there. That's beyond the scope because middle class families buy houses with that kind of money and pay EMIs on that. So young students often do part-time jobs. And if you go to a country which is in economic crisis, those part-time jobs are few and far between. The cost of living is very high. The cost of accommodation is very high. And then that is the situation in Canada right now. So what do we then do with those who still dream, ma'am?
Well, Rishabh, when we were kids growing up, our dream was to get an excellent education in India. I'm a complete Desi product of Delhi University. At the age of 21, I gave the civil service exam and got foreign service. And my first visit on abroad, in fact, which was my first trip on an airliner, was when I was posted to Paris as third secretary to learn French. So in those days, our dreams were uh, very realistic, and it depended upon the family budget. Uh, my father built his only house with its provident fund of 1,10,000, and I still live in that house. Nowadays, children dream big, which is good, but they should dream realistically. I think one of the problems is that in India, the centers of excellence where I studied, including Delhi University, my alma mater, uh, it is extremely difficult unless you're a really bright student to get admitted into an Indian university, which is an outstanding university. Which is why this whole issue arises of families trying to send students who are not necessarily outstanding students to complete their higher education outside because of the existing Indian mantra that every child must get a postgraduate or graduate degree. First of all, we should change our mindset. We should look at technical education. Should look at other options. We should encourage our kids to look at options available in India from the time they are growing up, and we should actively discourage kids from going to countries where there might be a white population, but which is in economic distress. I can understand that post 1947, some Indians, fortunately not bombs, have some hang up about Goras and white population and white population being superior to Indian population. But so many years after independence, why should anybody's dream be anchored outside India? In my perspective, an Indian's dream should be anchored inside India, just like when we were growing up, we used to be told about the Americans having their American dream, there used to be a song about it, etc. Why can't we bring up our kids to be anchored on the Indian dream based on what India can give you, which is a much better lifestyle, much more comfort, and no alienation? Because many of these kids, even those who do well, when they are close to retirement, they feel very, very lonely and alienated, and many then finally come back to India to find that their homeland has also become strange to them. So I think first of all we need to change our mindset, and secondly we definitely need to discourage kids from going to countries which are in
So,
economic crisis like in
so
Canada.
we are
Encourage the Indian dream instead of the Canadian dream.
so we are in an ironical situation, okay, which is being a conundrum difficult because, like I said, this is not even a dream; it's a reality for a lot of people. I mean, you are even cab drivers abroad remit money back home. We've learned from Ukraine that if you, and recently it's been in the hot topic in the news, that if you want to become a doctor, tens of thousands of students are studying in Ukraine. What are they studying? They're studying medicine. So let me get Dr. Kohli into this conversation. Dr. Kohli, can you help us understand the overall situation in what we call the developed world? And now Canada is supposed to be a fulcrum of the developed world, which is where we aspire to go. It's a country with a low population base, but the per capita income is very high. But what is the current economic situation of Canada?
Well, good evening, Rishabh. Good evening to my fellow panelists and dear NewsX viewers. The situation is absolutely in distress. You know, there are no jobs, there are no places to live, there is rampant unemployment. Now, I'd like to make a small correction here. I would call a country a developed country because the developed country is a situation of perpetuity, Rishabh. If you are once developed, it doesn't necessarily mean you are developed the next year and the next year and the next year. I think it's a very dynamic thing, and it keeps changing every year. So the stamp which Canada has got of a developed, or for that matter UK or any other country for that matter, if it has got a stamp of a developed country, as an economist, I have a difference of opinion. You are developed as on date, are you developed now? The answer is no. Canada is not developed at this point. I'm sorry to say that if this might be offending some Canadians who might be watching us. But the problem is that we Indians, we stamp it as developed forever. Once developed is always developed. Well, that is not the case. That's my first point. My second point is, the students who go there, you ask the parents, Rishabh, 90% of them, the students, when they go, beta ja pad ke wapas aa. Okay, 2 years, 3 years, whatever the course length is. But I can tell you 90% do not want to come back by hook or by crook. They want to find a job and settle themselves down there. It is only a reality check is done later when they come to terms with the fact that what they were getting domestic help for every single thing that they were doing, including polishing of shoes. Over there, they have to cook themselves, they have to clean themselves, they have to sweep themselves, they have to practically do everything themselves. And that is when they comes to reality. But by that time, it's too late because they get this social status of having been settled in Canada, studied there and so and so. So it's a stigma for them to come back here and get their beizti done. I'm sorry to say this. I mean, because this is the reality, so I have to utter it out. The fact of the matter is Canada doesn't have jobs, Rishabh. People queuing up, and you know who these students were? They were students of engineering. They were students of medicine. They were students of chartered accountancy, CPA as it's called. They were students of biology. They were students with highly skilled category, which were studying in some of the best colleges around Canada. Some of the best. And Tim Horton, I've got dignity for labor. I don't want to demean any labor, Rishabh, by saying that you will be probably serving as a waiter or a captain. But if you're studying engineering, we do not expect you to be a Tim Horton coffee shop captain. That is the last thing. But then the desperation is so much because parents are on a shoestring budget. I have heard stories, Rishabh, where parents have sold their properties and given that 1.5 crore rupees to the students to go and study there. Those are the stories. They sold their farmlands. They sold their jewelry. Beta ja pad le wahan jaake, hum reh lenge jaise taise karke. Those are the dialogues, Rishabh, which go before, and look at what they are going for. There is not even a career there, for God's sake. Understand the economy. My advice to parents, Rishabh, is please understand the economics before you stamp Canada as a developed country for rest of your life. It is not true at all, Rishabh.
So like I said, we are facing conundrums, and that's why this is a trap. And the reason it's a trap is, let me just put it for you. Not everybody's going to get a scholarship, okay? So a large percentage, if not the vast majority of the students that are going on loans, the loans which are guaranteed by their parents, because if you don't have a source of income, you can't guarantee your own loan. So the loan is guaranteed by your parents. The loan value is in the lakhs, tens of lakhs, not affordable for most people. So then you're trapped. The reason you're trapped is because if you have now literally sold your house or indebted your families into going abroad, exactly what Sharad Kohli says, if you don't like it there, if you're not getting the kind of opportunities, you can't come back. And the reason you can't come back, ladies and gentlemen, because earning capacity also equates to purchasing power. In economics, there is a figment called purchasing power parity. You watch a movie, you want to buy your McDonald's burger here versus what it costs there. And it is 5x, 6x, 10x. So you earn 5x, 6x. Yes, even a cab driver earns 5x, 6x, 10x, but is also spending 5x, 6x, 10x. The average housing price in British Columbia right now is 1 million Canadian dollars. That's about 6.5 crore rupees. That's the average housing price. Okay, these are not fancy houses. This is the average price if you want your own house. So let me then bring in Rabinder Sachdev on the conundrum. Rabinder Sachdev, obviously, these countries want people to come. They want the skilled labor. Okay, they want us to come. You've just heard Donald Trump, of all people, a couple of days ago says that Indians come and study here and then they go back to their own countries. No, we'll try to keep them here. Okay, they want you to come. Yet they whine and cry about you coming all the time. Let's face it, there is a tinge of what is racism. I've experienced it myself. It's not overall holistic. Everybody is not rude to you, but many people are. So let's not kid ourselves. Many people would be thinking, who are all these Indians and foreigners who are coming to take our jobs at Tim Hortons? There will be people thinking like that. India is growing at 8.5%. Okay, so how do we have this conundrum of this Canadian dream trap, especially for Punjabis?
Thank you so much, Rishabh. I mean, there's a gold mine to try and explore in this all. A couple of things. I would say that with respect to Punjabis and Canadian immigration, etc., there is a lot of, I think, under information amongst the children and the parents when they are applying and looking forward to the Canadian dream, right? So there's a lot of under information and a lot of misinformation also, one could say, right? Which is out there, I think, which is the pool from where all of this is coming. One. Secondly, I do see that, and I agree that definitely they want now a specific category of people. Each of these countries, be it Canada, US, UK, Australia, Japan, etc., they do need people, right? They need skilled people, especially. What has been happening so far, I think, especially in the US, UK, Canada, Australia, and all, they were not exactly calculating as to what is the number of people they need, what their shortages, shortfalls are. Now they've started taking a very close look. So, for example, Canada now says that, we need only 360,000 skilled of a particular kind coming, and that's the visas we'll open for them, versus, I think so far it's been at times even 700,000, 800,000 coming, right? So each of these countries, if you see, even the UK is doing the same, even Australia is doing the same, is cutting down on the total number of immigrants that they are wanting to accept. And they are, yes, now more clearly identifying, the skill sets, the basic qualifications, etc., that they want. So that's a trend out there, very, very much. And of course, it is driven by their own economic distress, the geopolitical shifts, the issue of inflation, rising food inflation, rising property, especially in Canada, the issue is housing. Housing is going up, you have more people, and then domestic politics. The foreign students are being blamed as to be coming in large numbers, so therefore needing more, housing, which in turn is driving up the price, housing price for the Canadian citizens, so to say, right? So these are the, issues happening out there. With respect to the, lining up at Tim Hortons and all, I think we all agree and we understand that dignity of labor is absolutely a great thing, should be cultivated. And especially as all of us would know out here, I think all students who are studying in the US, even the local Americans or local Canadians, during their studies do part-time jobs to keep themselves afloat.
Yes, it's the truth. But Ravinder Sachdev, I have a fundamental question. It's a difficult one. I know there's no straight answer, but why would an individual be willing to go to Canada to sell coffee, but would think of it as an insult to sell pakoras in India? Why?
The deep why would be that in our country, in India, we have still not, brought the idea of dignity of labor to a certain level. And this goes, by the way, back to the idea of a clean India also, right? Picking up a jharu in India, if you want to do your own cleaning, is looked down upon. Abhi, in the last 10 odd years, thanks to, let's say Modi ji and the Clean India campaign, that stigma has reduced. Otherwise, we do carry these notions. Our children in our households, middle class, upper middle class, let's say, right? And then, going across all classes. How many of them are do not feel any shame in picking up a jharu and doing their own sweeping? A lot of folks.
Okay, so it's a mental issue. Okay,
Yeah.
so Sumit, let's address the psychosis of this, because psychosis is real. Okay, how many of your friends, who will tell you that I went to London for holiday, because they went to London, they think they're superior? You said I went to Manali, they say I went to London, they think they're superior. How many people who said, of course I studied abroad, so therefore I'm superior. I live in New York. It happens in journalism. Okay.
Correct.
There can be a person of Indian descent living in Australia, using their news organization to cast aspersions on the great country of India, with their nose in the air, thinking they know India better than all of us who are professionals working here for the past, I've been doing it for 20 years, okay? So this aspersion that, I work for the New York Times, I work for the BBC, I might be washing dishes in the BBC, but I'm superior to you. So this goes into this aspiration. Now imagine, Sumit, if you're 21, 22, and your parents said, okay, 50 lakh rupees, we're going to invest in your startup for you to make money here, versus 50 lakh rupees and we're going to send you to Canada to become a waiter. But the person still prefers to become the waiter. Why?
Rishabh ji, thank you for having me on your show, because let's not forget, the country has been enslaved for 1,000 years. 200 years by British and around 600 to 800 years by the invaders. So last 200 years have been pathetically bad because British drained about $45 trillion from this economy, left us high and dry from controlling a GDP of 33% in the world, left us at 1%. We have climbed up to 2.5% yet. There's still a lot of way to go. So the country had a notion, whatever comes from the West, whatever the Goras say, whatever is white is beautiful. White is beautiful is no questions asked. So that is the dream which has been put into our DNA. We wear still the Western clothes. We dress pretty much Western. Speaking English is considered still a virtue in our country. If you can speak good English, it's a virtue in our country.
Yeah. It's a sign of class. It's a sign.
Yeah,
it's a class thing.
It's a class, And if you wear those fine suitings and a tie and all, you're considered to be the elite. So this is the notion what has been got into the country, and unfortunately, we still have that imperialistic hangover in which we still live. The tyranny of the times is that what you rightly said. We'll not put 50 lakhs in a startup here or a business here. We want to go to Canada and become a waiter there. This is the conundrum which all face. When I was living out, I always had an option to live there and come back to my country. I always wanted to come back, and I came back at the right time. I said, I don't want to live there. I had done my part of that. I got my experience. I'm coming back to my country. The point here is that where is that national pride? Where is that Indian pride? Why do our kids still wear the t-shirts of NASA, not ISRO? This is the question I have been asking, because you have been mentally positioned. Whatever is there is good. Whatever is white is good. So unless and until we as a society reconcile with the fact, there are some beautiful points made by all the panelists, that we reconcile to the fact, if you look at the economics today, by purchase power parity was the number 3rd economy. Where is Canada? It's not in top 10 even. So by that logic, we are already doing much better than Canada. If you look at GDP, where is Canada? Where are we? If you look at the growth of the economy, where are we and where is Canada? Look at the debt to GDP ratio of Canada and look at us. We are doing much better.
Okay.
But how to fight that notion? I want to make one small point,
Please.
one observation. When I was in US, a lot of my co-workers in the company, they were all this, submarine ops. Everybody was almost submarine ops. One day I got curious. I said, Bhai, how come you're all from submarine ops? Then they told me a story. He said, look, Sumit, it costs around $120,000 to get a bachelor's degree in engineering here. And all of us cannot afford. So what do? We sign up a contract. We enroll in the military, we get a bachelor's degree done, we do 10 years in a submarine after doing a degree. After that, we can come out and work in the open industry. That is why you find everybody by default is from submarine ops. Then I talk the same thing to my people. How much does it cost to get a bachelor's degree in engineering here? Literally peanuts. So, this is the reality of the world which nobody understands. But the hallucination of the dream is so powerful, the aura is so powerful, that white syndrome is so powerful.
No. So it's partly that. Partly, of course, there is also other issues here. And I want to I don't have time to address all of them. And this is an ongoing conversation. But let me address a different point with Dr. Kohli before I get Ambassador Mukherjee back in. Dr. Kohli, so then we have this rather strange conundrum. Okay? Because on one hand, we are told that anybody who makes it into who's a multi-crorepati now, who makes the millions, okay? They also prefer to leave. They want to take UAE or Singapore or somewhere else. They want to head off somewhere else. That might be for taxation reason, might be otherwise. Then there are people who have still an aspiration, and as I mentioned it, you won't start a pakoda shop because that's an insult in India, in which people make a lot of money. I've been told that some girl selling vada pav has become a viral sensation. She is now making 40,000 rupees a day. She's been invited to Big Boss. Okay, these things are also miracle stories of this country. So what is this conundrum that the very rich want to take an option out, and the people who desperately need economic progress also take an option out?
I think, Rishabh, if you've hit the nail on the head. If you go 10 years back, probably things were different. I'm taking you back to 2014, 2013. Canada, I know a lot of success stories in Canada, UK. People did make a lot of money there. So there is different sections of people, as you rightly said. It's sad. Today is day 3, Rishabh. Day before yesterday on your channel, we discussed about a man who had gone from India, who was left on the streets of Italy like an animal to die. Yesterday we discussed the Hinduja family treating their Indian labor the way they were. They're already facing imprisonment. Today, third day, now we have a different section of people, students. You know what? So basically what we are noticing here all the 3 days, that the category of individuals we were discussing are different, but the story is same. The story is that of a second-class citizen. The story is that of racism. The story is that of torture. The story is of lack of opportunities. So whether you are a laborer, or you're a domestic worker, or you're a student for that matter. So I think there is, as rightly said, misinformation is underlying the fact. And I agree with Sumit that, this has been hammered into our head that if you're going to a Gora country, you're going to heaven. It's a different world altogether. I think it's the misinformation. That is why I advise the parents, Rishabh, that please, for God's sake, when you decide to choose a destination or a country, do not go by what your neighbors, your relatives, or the peer pressure, as we call it. Please do not go by a status that I'll have a certain status. My students are studying in Canada or UK. For God's sake, study the economy. Are they getting jobs? Are they getting houses? Not every family who's sending the student is rich enough that I can probably make my child stay in a Mayfair in London. No, they are only a very handful. Most of them are going under financial distress, Rishabh, is I wanted to emphasize.
And that's the truth. And I have witnessed this in front of my own eyes, okay, that the struggle is real. And for the vast majority of people, you are studying during the day, you're working in the evenings and late at night, and that is paying the bills. Once you finish, there is no guarantee of a job. Some countries give you 6 months, some give you a year, some give you 3 months to find a job. Once you find a job, you are always have a Damocles sword hanging over your head. Because if you lose the job and can't find a replacement within a month, you have to pack your bags and go back home. Okay? Yet people choose to do it. So let me then reverse the question for Ambassador Mukherjee. Ambassador Mukherjee, we are obviously at the same time celebrating our diaspora. These are people who took on these challenges, who with pennies in their pockets landed in foreign shores, struggled, made their names, worked hard, run all companies, are involved in politics. One is one descendant is now a UK Prime Minister. One more, contested to be President of the United States very recently. So we celebrate the diaspora, and at the same time, we are saying that the next generation should not get seduced by it. How do we balance this out?
Because the history of India has changed, Rishabh. When we were under colonial rule, 1.5 million Indians were sent as indentured labor to replace the slaves because slavery was abolished. When we got our independence, we were, because of colonization, a very, very poor country, left partitioned, bankrupt and bleeding. So there was a natural incentive for those who could afford it to send their children to higher education, particularly because the World Bank at that time advised the government of the day not to invest money in tertiary education and just give Indians basic education. Fortunately, the government of the day did not listen to that advice, and so we have centers of tertiary education. Today in 2024, as Dr. Kohli has rightly pointed out, we are a very fast-growing economy, and the parents, our generation and the generation after us, need to explain to the kids that India has fundamentally changed. Those opportunities which were not available to my generation are available to the next generation, provided they are willing to put in that effort, as we did, because we had no options. In those days, jobs were very scarce. We had to do our best, pull up our socks. You said, Rishabh, that people are not willing to sell pakoras here. I think you are talking about, first of all, let's discuss the gender divide. In a normal middle-class Indian family, the daughter is taught how to cook and clean, and the son is told, "Beta, ye kaam aapke liye nahi hai. Aap ladke ho na, you must, you are special. You're the son of the house." So please understand that that is also there. It's less now, I agree, but it was very much there when I was growing up. Secondly, it is not true that kids in India don't know how to cook and clean and pick up not a jharu, but a vacuum cleaner. I would like to tell my colleagues on the panel, because obviously they have neither done jharu or vacuum cleaning. I have done both. Let me tell you that is done when you send your kid to an Indian boarding school or a hostel. My suggestion would be, make your kid self-sufficient. Let him learn how to do jharu, pocha, cleaning, washing. It's good for him. When he do a startup, he will know how to handle his life himself. I don't have any problem in anyone selling pakoras here or coffee there. But I do have an objection that if they have gone there thinking that they have become Gora in a superior lifestyle, then they should remember what my French teacher in Sorbonne University told me when I was learning French. She said, You have a beautiful complexion, she said. Indians all have lovely complexion. She said to me in French, it is light tea, medium tea, and strong tea. What was she trying to tell me? That no matter how much you try, your skin will always be the color of beautiful Indian tea. I was happy with that. I have no problem. But if people are under the erroneous impression that by earning $1 million, their complexion has also changed, forget it, Rishabh. It will not. So we better teach our kids.
Yes.
Take up pakoras and become self-sufficient.
Okay.
And
So let me put that same, because the same conundrum is in the life and work of Rabindra Sachdeva. Rabindra Sachdeva, I mean, you interact with Indians living abroad as a course of your daily routine. And some of them have exactly these kind of stories to tell, that they came with nothing and they made something of themselves. Some of them actually, after having made something of themselves, now want to return and take part in this engine that is now India. But at the same time, there are many others who want to sell up. They want to sell their few bighas and hope that their children can get citizenship, and then they can get their parents in eventually as well. I've seen that happen across the board, that once a child goes and second child goes, then they apply for visa for the parents. So we have these motion on two sides going on.
Well, thank you, Rishabh. Yeah, I mean, this is coexisting. You know, there is one section, as we are talking, or one segment of a particular kind of students or workers who go abroad, and there is this other section, which, as I'm saying, is maybe more underinformed, more misinformed from the in fact, from the harder economic classes, right, who are selling their, land for a certain dream. Okay, those are the ones typically, I would say, if I were to generalize, who are facing more of the problems. This other segment, which is going, let's say, to regular engineering colleges or regular degree programs, etc., they are definitely facing the economic woes. As you mentioned, you join on H1, and after certain time your company lays off, you are facing those difficulties. So there are two patterns out there, I would say, in the overall. Another thing which is happening, we are looking at the diaspora. We are talking the first generation of those who stick by there, right? Their progenies, their children have lost all touch with India or losing touch with India. In fact, there's something goes around, all of us may know, that they are potatoes. They're brown on the outside, they're white on the inside, the children, because they're born in that cultural milieu, right? So that's another aspect to the diaspora which is happening.
I thought the racist term was coconut. That was, I was told by someone in a not very pleasant atmosphere many years ago.
Sure.
And I laughed it off, but it is a racist term in the end.
It is absolutely. And lastly, to the point, I'll come back quickly to the point of cleanliness and picking a jharu. 10 years ago, in 2011, actually, we started a Clean India campaign to just promote, and we did hundreds and thousands of cleanups across the country we've done, right? We used to maro jharu outside AIMS. People would come by and ask me, okay, what is your caste? Okay, and one more thing. One of the TV channels which covered our annual Clean India Day, I will not name it, it's the #1 Hindi channel as of today. Their reporters were covering that, and they were asking the same thing, sir, don't you feel any shame or something? This is 2013, I'm saying. Okay, I agree, and that is what is absolutely needed. Things have really changed on this front of dignity of labor. But there's a lot of inbuilt resistance which is still out there.
Okay, so I'll leave the last word to Sumit, because it is a very complex. Sumit, do we just leave it to the nature of the free market? Okay, that there will people who will go. If they have bad experiences, that word will get out, and then less people will go until things stabilize. This is not something that requires redressal. It is something that is organically how the world works.
Rishabhji, if you look at it, which is the country after China which is making maximum number of billionaires? India. Where the billionaire population is increasing at alarming rate, India, which is the third biggest ecosystem of startups, India, which is the country which is getting highest FDI in startups is India, which is the country which is getting #1 FDIs in India. So in India, if you cannot find opportunities, then if you want me, I want to go to, for example, Netherlands or a Luxembourg or a Croatia. If you think you can find opportunities there, I think that notion has to be given out, that we have to tell our people, if you are a product of IIT or IM, the government of India has put money on you to come and work and serve this country, not to serve a Microsoft or a wherever. We obviously there'll be some success stories of somewhere. But are their success stories enough to keep on propelling millions of people going out? They are not. But average thing is कि आपके पासपोर्ट का रंग कुछ भी हो, आपका चाल, बाल, खाल और डीएनए नहीं बदलता ऋषभ जी. You can have any color of the passport. चाल, बाल, खाल और डीएनए नहीं बदलता. This is the message which has to go loud and clear. सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा.
Okay.
जीना यहाँ बनना है, इसके सिवा जाना का.
Okay.
Simple.
So I'll leave it on two fundamental notes. And for people to make an assessment, if you're a student, okay, if you're a parent of a student at a particular age and stage thinking of studying abroad, make an assessment about what is happening in that country that you're going to, especially if you have long-term goals there. And it's perfectly okay to have the long-term goals. It's not a conversation to say that going abroad is some sort of anathema. No, it's not. It is, in the end, the aspiration of people that they should work hard and realize. But I'd like you to consider this. Before you take that student loan worth lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of rupees, before you literally are willing to bet your house on it, okay, MT or FD. I have seen students who have taken their entire parents' pension funds, okay, in the hope that they can make it big, and the parents will do anything. Many parents will do it, okay. And unlike a different cultural system where you're asked to leave at age of 18, here until your mid-30s, mid-40s, your parents keep supporting you. I know mine still do. I mean, I don't pay rent. So think about it, that 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs, 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs, sometimes even more. If you invested that in a growing economy and gave your ward or student or child a chance to build something with that, would that be better for their economic future than ask them to study in a tier 2, tier 3 university that no one's heard of just because it's in Canada? Just think that over once before you make the judgment call.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.